Fatal flaws have been a persistent trait of not just the Percy Jackson books, but the original Greek myths as well. These Achilles' heels act as a hero's weak point or inherent flaw that can be most easily exploited by anyone who might wish to see a hero fall. In most cases, they're not literal physical weak points like the actual heel of Achilles, but personal character flaws that can be taken advantage of or lead a hero to acting without reason. In the case of the Seven, we get to see each of their flaws played out across the Heroes of Olympus series, but let's back up and start with just Percy and Annabeth. Percy's fatal flaw is his undying, unquestioning loyalty to those that he loves. Percy has quite literally held up the weight of the sky for the people he cares about, and this is a trait that is such a core tenet of his character that it's graduated to the rank of a fatal flaw. This goes all the way back to his very first adventure when he trekked across the country just to save his mom from the clutches of the underworld. At every turn, Percy will always put the well-being of his friends first, and this has been taken advantage of time and time again. His friends and family can always be used as bait to lure Percy into dangerous situations, and he will comply every single time, not just with his mother, but the same thing happens in future books as well. In the Sea of Monsters, when Grover is stranded on the island of Polyphemus, he drops everything to voyage into the Sea of Monsters and save his friend. At the beginning of Sea of Monsters, we learn that the Golden Fleece is the only thing that can save Talia's tree after it was poisoned by Luke. And yes, Percy wants to recover the fleece to save the camp, but he's even more focused on getting Grover out alive. We then jump forward to the Titan's Curse, and the exact same thing happens again with Annabeth. He sneaks out of camp, stalks the quest party without permission, and eventually inserts himself into the quest just to make sure that Annabeth is okay. What's so interesting about this, though, is his conversation with Athena when she first reveals the concept of a fatal flaw to him. She states that flaws are good in moderation, but the fatal flaw becomes fatal when it's taken too far. Someday, if Percy does not learn how to intervene in moderation, he will push himself too far and pay the ultimate price. But the good thing is, he seems to be reeling it in just a little bit in the recent years. In the Chalice of the Gods, he's focused on getting into college and wants to be left alone. He doesn't get involved in the trials of Apollo, aside from helping Lester and Meg get to Camp Half-Blood. From then on out, he leaves them to their own devices, and in the Ship of the Dead, he helps prepare Magnus Chase for his upcoming voyage to stop Loki. Percy trains Magnus in basic nautical tactics, but he doesn't get involved, choosing to focus on himself instead, and this is a healthy development. Old Percy would have jumped into either of these quests if someone he knew was at risk, but he's still going to inevitably jump back into the fray at some point, given what we know about the end of Magnus Chase series and the clues planted in Trials of Apollo. But he might have a more secure grip on his flaw. So next, let's talk about Annabeth and her ego, and more specifically her hubris. On its surface, hubris isn't a belief of superiority, but in Annabeth's case, it actually goes much deeper than this. Annabeth's flaw isn't necessarily that she thinks she's better than everyone else, but she believes that every problem has a solution. More importantly, she thinks she can always find the solution to any given problem. To be fair to Annabeth, she has a track record to support her flaw, but it's still just that, a flaw. I do want to talk briefly about the Hephaestus chair in the series, which was a notable deviation from the original books, but it highlights both of their flaws, so it's an important thing to bring up. In the Disney Plus series, Percy and Annabeth need to go to retrieve Ares' shield, just like in The Lightning Thief, but in this depiction they face the Hephaestus chair. One of them needs to sacrifice themselves in exchange for the shield, and Percy immediately puts himself in the line to save his mother. Not only is he so loyal to her that he's willing to give his own life, but he's giving Annabeth the chance to fulfill her first quest despite only knowing her for a few days. He asks her to find Sally, but we also get to see Annabeth's flaw at the exact same time. Annabeth's highly analytical. She's convinced that there must be a solution. Eventually, she has to accept that the solution is not logical, it's emotional. And Annabeth is not good at emotional communication. In the books, this is probably best explained in The Heroes of Olympus, when Annabeth and Piper venture into the cabin of Phobos and Deimos. Piper, as a daughter of Aphrodite, is much more emotionally in tune than Annabeth. And she figures out the puzzle before Annabeth because it's not logical, it's emotional. The first thing she does is cut away their escape route, and Annabeth is immediately thrown off kilter. This is a very non-strategic and stupid decision that Annabeth would never have settled on, but Piper tells Annabeth to shut up and trust her. It's Piper that gets the two out of there by understanding emotional complexity, which is the only reason why someone as logical as Annabeth survived. She spent her entire life fighting, and this came with a huge emotional gap that she's been fighting to fill. The reason why she is so aggressive is because she's been a scrapper since she was 7, and she has to trust that Percy will stay on nothing more than faith. There's nothing logical about relationships, and this freaks Annabeth out immensely. Her grip on logical approaches and the idea that all problems have a logical solution is destined to be her downfall. When she comes across an instance that simply can't be approached with logic and reason. If she's ever trapped in a situation like the cave of Phobos and Deimos again, but without someone like Piper by her side, then her analytical mind won't be the death of her, but her underdeveloped emotional perspective will. Just to clarify, Annabeth's flaw isn't that she's a logical thinker, it's that she's only a logical thinker. She doesn't have a healthy balance between her analytical and emotional brains, but lucky for us, she seems to be healing from this as well. Her relationship with Percy has nothing to do with logic, and she's finally learning to wholeheartedly trust somebody on nothing but faith. Keep in mind, Annabeth hasn't been able to truly trust anyone in years. We could do a whole episode on reasons why Annabeth has trust issues. Let's see. Luke betrayed her. Talia went and joined the Hunters after they had only been back together for like a couple months. Half of the gods have spited her in some way. Hera, absolutely, could not have faith and trust in the gods because of that. Like, you want to talk about people not being able to trust the gods. We could do a whole episode just on how I think it fits Percy more to have absolutely zero faith in the gods than like even trusting his own father. Because that gets played into in Sea of Monsters when he's like confused about the fact that he has a brother. My cat has decided to play with one of his toys. God, I could go on about Percy and Annabeth being untrustworthy and unfaithful to the gods forever. They do it completely out of spite and loyalty to other Half-Bloods, and they do not give a f*** about the gods. I think they only even participate in the Titan War. Well, Annabeth does it because I think she thinks it's her shot to get more out of life, and it leads into her hubris. But Percy, his is absolutely just about the fact that if the gods die, the Titans are going to be worse. I don't think he truly cares about the gods sticking around. Her father was absent and neglectful in favor of her step-siblings, which caused her to run away at the age of 7. After this, she was homeless and completely alone until she met Talia and Luke, but even this couldn't last forever. Talia was presumed dead when they got to Camp Half-Blood, and Luke betrayed her and Percy when they were 12. She loves Chiron dearly, but he's her teacher, not her friend, or anything beyond a caring educator, so she had to learn how to develop genuine emotional bonds with people and actually let her guard down, which she's never been able to do. She's never even been able to totally get rid of the mindset that anyone she loves is going to leave her, even Percy. Throughout the original series, the two of them get closer and closer, but in the Battle of the Labyrinth, Percy starts to show favoritism towards Rachel. He doesn't even realize what he's doing, but he's pulling away from Annabeth, and he's the closest friend she's ever truly had, so of course she gets defensive and aggressive. By the end, Percy comes to his senses, and everything seems to be alright until he's ripped away from her again in the middle of the night. How many times has Annabeth... I'm going off tangent again. I think one of the main reasons why Annabeth refuses to believe that Percy is dead in The Lost Hero is because he's died repeatedly. In the Sea of Monsters, he blows up on the ship with Beckendorf. And they bury him. They burn a funeral shroud for him. In Battle of the Labyrinth, he blows up again. There's boy in explosions. He blows up again, and they think he's dead. In the last Olympian, Nico pulls him away in the middle of the night, and he disappears for a few days, and Annabeth probably thinks that he's dead again. So then even in the first book, he blows up the arch, and she's like, ah shit, he's dead. We count how many times Annabeth has truly thought, oh shit, he's dead. She's just sick and tired of it. She's like, no, I refuse to believe that he's actually dead. And that's why in The Lost Hero, she's like, no, he's not dead. I just gotta find him. Because she's just gone through this ringer too many times with him. Her flaw is already the fear that people will leave her, and the inability to emotionally let her guard down. And just when she starts to find someone that she's comfortable around, someone that she feels she can connect with, he vanishes. It's not his fault, he didn't willingly do anything to hurt her, but she still had to deal with the emotional fallout of being emotionally vulnerable with someone and having them leave. In Tartarus, this is perfectly illustrated in the Forest of the Air-Eye, which they travel through in the House of Hades, where Annabeth is cursed to believe that Percy has abandoned her again. This is why these two flaws complement each other so perfectly, because Percy is inexplicably loyal to his loved ones, and his bonds can't be broken easily. Even Luke, who had betrayed him and tried to kill him several times, asked for Percy's help at the very end, and Percy helped. He told the demigods aboard the Princess Andromeda that the ship was about to explode, despite the fact that these were his enemies. and he ran the risk of having his entire plan thwarted just to help some misguided demigods that he didn't know anything about. Annabeth can't logically explain his loyalty, and this terrifies him. If you like these kind of Percy Jackson breakdowns, be sure to let us know what else you want us to talk about. We love this series, we love talking about it with you, so jump in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and have a good one.